So picture this. You pour your heart and soul into creating what you think is your masterpiece. But when you turn it in, your record label just rejects it. So what do? Well, if you're the band Wilco, you end up selling that very same album right back to them. It's an incredible story about the fight for artistic freedom, and we're going to get into all of it. So, this is Wilco, a band that, for decades, has been really hard to pin down. Like Rolling Stone said, they are one of America's most consistently interesting bands. And get this exact lineup of musicians, they've been together for almost 20 years now. That's practically unheard of in the music world. You know, for a long time, critics had this big, lofty nickname for them, the American Radiohead. And honestly, it's a comparison they totally earned. They've built their entire career on evolving, experimenting, and just refusing to ever make the same album twice. Now, to really understand their epic fight for creative control, we've got to go back to the beginning. And their story actually starts with the messy breakup of another legendary group. Yep, before there was Wilco, there was a band called Uncle Tupelo. These guys were basically pioneers of the whole alt-country movement, mixing punk rock energy with old-school folk sounds. But at its heart, the band was really a battleground for two competing creative forces, the songwriters, Jeff Tweedy and Jay Farrar. Well, in 1994, all that creative tension finally just boiled over, and the band split right in two. Farrar left and started a brand new band called Sun Volt, and Jeff Tweedy, he took all the other guys from Uncle Tupelo and just rebranded them as Wilco. And right away, the rivalry was on. Sun Volt's first album was a huge hit with critics and fans. Meanwhile, Wilco's debut, AM, which sounded a lot like their old band, well, it was seen as a pretty big disappointment. And that early setback, that failure, really pushed them to change and find a voice that was truly their own. In fact, that stumble led them directly into their next phase. This is when they made a very conscious choice to get way more ambitious, a lot more eclectic, and frankly, a whole lot weirder. They took a massive gamble with their second album, Being There. It was this huge, sprawling 19-song double album. And to make sure fans could actually afford it, they talked their label into selling it for the price of a single CD. Now, what was the catch? Well, the band had to give up an estimated $600,000 in their own royalties. It was an incredibly powerful statement right at the start of their career. For them, it was always art over commerce. But you can imagine, this whole art-first attitude, it didn't always go over so well with their record label. By the time they were making their third album, Summerteeth, which was even more experimental, the relationship with Reprise Records was already starting to get pretty tense. And all of that set the stage for a showdown, a confrontation that wouldn't just define their career, but would become a legendary cautionary tale in the music industry. And this is the album at the very center of it all, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Its famous cover shows the Marina City Towers in their hometown of Chicago, and trust me, the music inside was every bit as complex and ambitious as that architecture. Now, the fight wasn't just with the record label. Inside the band itself, frontman Jeff Tweedy and multi-instrumentalist Jay Bennett were clashing hard over the album's really abstract and deconstructed sound. The whole struggle was actually caught on film in the documentary I Am Trying to Break Your Heart. So the showdown with the label was incredibly dramatic. Here's how it went down. 1, Wilco proudly delivers their finished album. 2, Reprise listens to it and completely rejects it, calling it career suicide and demanding they go back and write a radio-friendly single. 3, Wilco refuses to change a single note, so the label drops them. But here's the absolute kicker. As part of the deal to let them go, Reprise gave Wilco the master tapes to the album for free, just to wash their hands of it. So now Wilco owns this masterpiece of an album, but they have no label to release it. So what do? In a move that was totally wild for 2001, I mean, this was the peak of the Napster era, they started streaming the entire album on their website for free. They totally leaned into the digital chaos the industry was terrified of, and the buzz for this orphaned album just grew into a roar. So was the label right? Was this album really commercially unviable? Well, it has since sold over 670,000 copies in the US alone. That makes it their best-selling record ever. Yeah, I'd call that a slight miscalculation by their old label. You know, a critic for Rolling Stone at the time just hit the nail on the head. He said the whole thing perfectly showed how screwed up the music business is. It became this legendary David versus Goliath story for the digital age. So what happens next, right? After being dropped and literally giving your album away for free, where do you even go from there? Well, it turns out Wilco's victory was about to get even sweeter. And here is the punchline. This is the best part. Wilco took their finished album, shopped it around to other labels, and signed a new deal with None Such Records. And the irony? None Such was owned by Warner Music Group, the exact same parent company as their old label Reprise. So in effect, Warner paid Wilco for an album that it had already paid to create and then had literally given away for free. You just can't make this stuff up.
Their vindication was fast, and it was total. Yankee Hotel Foxtrot was a massive critical and commercial success. And their very next album, A Ghost Is Born, went on to win 2 Grammy Awards, cementing their place as one of the most respected bands around.
This graphic right here, it visualizes their entire history perfectly. On the left, you can see all the chaos of their early years. It was just a revolving door of band members. But then, after the whole Foxtrot saga, look at the right side. Since 2004, that lineup has been a solid, unbroken line. They literally survived the fire and came out stronger and more stable than ever before.
In the end, Wilco's story is so much more than just music industry drama. It's a really powerful statement about sticking to your guns and believing in your art. And it leaves us with one final thought. Today, in a world of viral singles and algorithm-driven streams, what can we all learn from a band that was willing to risk their entire career for the integrity of a single album?